to Creepy True Stories, where reality takes a spine-tingling twist. Brace yourselves for a journey into the unknown, as we unearth chilling tales and unsolved mysteries that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Prepare to be captivated, intrigued, and haunted by the truth, because here, the darkness has a story to tell.
In the heart of the sultry, enigmatic city of New Orleans, where jazz and voodoo intertwine, there lies a forgotten stretch of the French Quarter. The cobblestone streets seemed to exhale secrets, and the moss-draped oaks whispered tales of long-lost elegance. This enclave was not like the Bourbon Street revelry that attracted tourists from around the world. Instead, it was a place steeped in shadows, where the air hung heavy with history and sorrow. The Mansion District was where old money flowed through ivy-covered archways, and where ghostly echoes lurked behind wrought iron gates. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a dusky hue over the wrought iron fences and intricate latticework. Within these mansions, a peculiar elegance had survived centuries, trapped in the cracks of the floorboards, the velvet draperies, and the gilded frames. Among the mansions, the Beaumont Mansion stood as the crown jewel of macabre history. It was a stately structure, adorned with balconies that wept with age. In its heyday, it had been the setting for grand masquerade balls that shimmered with revelry and opulence. But those days had passed, and now, its facade concealed more than just secrets, it held darkness that defied reason. The legend began with Celestine Beaumont, a woman of extraordinary beauty who captivated all who gazed upon her. Her beauty, however, was matched by her vanity, and her vanity was equaled only by her cruelty. It was said that she had loved a young artist, Lucien, with a passion that scorched the very soul. Their love was intoxicating, a flame that threatened to consume them both. One night, as a storm raged through the city, Celestine's jealousy flared. She believed that Lucien had been unfaithful, and in her rage, she took a pair of scissors and severed the fingers of the very hand that had caressed her face with tenderness. Lucien fled, leaving his bloody, disfigured hand behind. Celestine, wrought with remorse, realized the extent of her madness. She was driven to madness herself, haunted by guilt and visions of her lost love. It was whispered that she became obsessed with dark rituals, trying to summon Lucien's spirit to beg for forgiveness. But something went horribly wrong. The night of the ritual, the mansion shook with a malevolent energy. Candles flickered, and the air grew frigid. A presence, dark and menacing, emerged from the shadows. The servants fled in terror as Celestine's screams echoed through the mansion. When they ventured back the next morning, they found her lifeless body, her face contorted in a twisted expression of anguish. The mansion, once a symbol of elegance and opulence, became a place of dread. Its grand chandeliers swayed ominously, and the walls whispered as if sharing their memories. For years, it stood empty, shunned by the living. As the sun sank deeper into the horizon, a group of paranormal enthusiasts ventured into the heart of the Mansion District. Among them was Daniel, a skeptical journalist seeking a story that would propel his career. His camera and voice recorder ready, he entered the Beaumont Mansion with the others. They wandered through the decaying rooms, capturing the faded grandeur of the past. Shadows danced on the walls, and the air was laden with the scent of dried roses and dust. It wasn't long before the group encountered the infamous ballroom, where Celestine had committed her terrible act. As they stepped into the ballroom, the grand chandeliers overhead began to swing gently, as if moved by unseen hands. The group exchanged nervous glances, their excitement mixed with unease. The group continued to explore the mansion, moving from room to room. Each step brought them deeper into the heart of the legend, where dark secrets intertwined with forgotten elegance. Their cameras captured strange orbs of light, and their voice recorders crackled with eerie whispers. They reached the room where Celestine had conducted her ill-fated ritual, and it was there that the horror reached its crescendo. As Daniel pointed his camera at a shadowy corner, he felt a searing pain in his hand. He screamed and dropped the camera, revealing a gash across his palm. The others rushed to his side, their faces etched in terror. But the true horror was yet to come. In the dim light, they saw a figure emerging from the shadows, a figure with a face twisted in agony. It was Celestine, her long hair matted with blood, and her dress stained with the passage of time. She reached out with her disfigured hand, the fingers that had once caressed Lucien now reaching for Daniel. The group scattered in terror, their footsteps echoing through the haunted mansion. Daniel, clutching his bleeding hand, stumbled down a hidden staircase into the basement. In the darkness, he could hear Celestine's mournful cries echoing in the distance. As he reached the basement, his flashlight illuminated an eerie sight. Rows of glass jars lined the shelves, each containing a severed hand. In the center of the room, there was a crude altar covered in blood. It was here that Celestine had conducted her dark rituals, and it was here that she had trapped the souls of those she had wronged. Suddenly, Daniel realized the bone-chilling truth. The mansion wasn't haunted by the spirit of Celestine alone, but by the spirits of all the victims whose hands she had severed. The souls, trapped in the jars, sought revenge for the atrocities committed against them. As the realization washed over him, the jars began to rattle, and the basement filled with anguished whispers. Daniel knew he had to escape, but the door at the top of the stairs was locked, and he could hear Celestine drawing nearer. In a final act of desperation, he grabbed a jar from the shelf, smashed it against the ground, and released the vengeful spirit within. The room erupted in chaos, and the mansion trembled as the spirits exacted their revenge on Celestine. The mansion itself seemed to convulse, and Daniel managed to unlock the door and stumble out into the night. As he emerged onto the cobblestone streets, he turned to look back at the mansion, which now stood silent and dark. But just as he thought the horror was over, he saw a reflection in the mansion's window, a reflection of Celestine, her disfigured hand reaching out to him. The mansion had not relinquished its hold on her, and as Daniel watched in horror, she stepped through the glass and into the night. The group had entered the mansion seeking a story, but what they found was a nightmare beyond their darkest imaginings. And as they scattered into the night, they couldn't escape the bone-chilling truth that the mansion's malevolence would forever haunt their memories. In the heart of the New Orleans Mansion District, the legend of Celestine and her vengeful spirits lived on, a story of eerie elegance and the horrors that lurked behind the facade of forgotten opulence. The haunted mansions of New Orleans held secrets that would forever send shivers down the spines of those who dared to venture into their shadowy depths. The legend of Celestine and her vengeful spirits spread like wildfire through the city of New Orleans, captivating the imagination of those who heard it. The Beaumont Mansion, once a forsaken relic of the past, now became a focal point of fascination and fear. Tourists flocked to the Mansion District, eager to catch a glimpse of the haunted elegance that had taken hold of the grand old house. As tales of paranormal encounters continued to circulate, daring ghost hunters and thrill-seekers arrived in droves. They brought with them all manner of instruments, EVP recorders, infrared cameras, and electromagnetic field detectors, all in hopes of capturing the supernatural on film. Some believed that the spirits of the mansion had grown stronger, their anguish fueling their malevolence. But they soon discovered that the mansion was not merely haunted, it was cursed. The spirits of Celestine's victims, once released from their glass prisons, roamed the mansion's corridors, seeking retribution for the atrocities they had suffered. The ghost hunters found themselves trapped in a labyrinth of revenge, unable to escape. Over time, the mansion's eerie elegance turned to something far more sinister. Its grand chandeliers, once a symbol of opulence, now flickered and danced with malevolent glee. The once beautiful draperies became tattered and frayed, and the walls whispered not just of memories, but of torment. Those who entered the mansion were drawn inexorably into the darkness, where they confronted their deepest fears and sins. They found themselves reliving the gruesome events that had occurred within those walls. The spirits, now free to exact their revenge, tormented the living with nightmarish visions and unrelenting terror. The legend grew darker with each passing day, as tales of those who had entered the mansion and never returned circulated through the city. It became clear that the spirits of Celestine's victims had taken their own twisted form of justice, dragging the souls of the living into a nightmarish purgatory. Local authorities attempted to seal off the mansion, declaring it off-limits to all. But still, the brave and the foolish ventured into the district, lured by the tantalizing promise of capturing evidence of the supernatural. They, too, became trapped in the web of revenge that the mansion had become. In the quiet of the night, the mansion's iron gates creaked open, beckoning unsuspecting wanderers. It was as if the spirits themselves called out to new victims, their wails carried on the whispering wind. As they crossed the threshold, they were swallowed by the mansion's dark history, doomed to experience the same horrors that had befallen those who had come before. And so, the tale of the Beaumont Mansion continued to haunt New Orleans, a cautionary tale of arrogance, jealousy, and cruelty that had given birth to an eternal curse. It stood as a stark reminder that the past could not be escaped, and that the sins of one's ancestors could return to exact a terrible price. The haunted mansions of New Orleans remained shrouded in an eerie elegance that defied explanation. The city's streets buzzed with the stories of lost souls and malevolent spirits, their presence a constant reminder that the line between the living and the dead was often thinner than one might think. In the heart of the French Quarter, where jazz and voodoo intertwined, the Beaumont Mansion stood as a silent sentinel, its windows dark and foreboding. It was a place where history and horror converged, where the past bled into the present, and where the whispers of the damned echoed through the ages. Visitors to New Orleans may come for the music, the cuisine, and the culture, but they would do well to remember the warning that echoed through the streets: beware the haunted mansions of New Orleans, for they hold secrets that will forever haunt your soul. The elegance of the past may be alluring, but the horrors that lie beneath are a darkness that cannot be escaped, a darkness that can chill the very marrow of one's bones.